Later in the 1970s, the battle between public lands and private rights moved north. Alaska became ground zero. Alaska is on a scale all its own. Some say it also has a mindset of its own. In 1978, Jimmy Carter used the Antiquities Act to try to create 17 new national monuments in Alaska.
I don't think it went over very well. I think there was great concern about what this meant.
Alaskans, who have always been fiercely independent, challenged the move. Many considered it federal overreach, a threat to their way of life. The legal dust settled by 1980. Carter's move stood with a unique compromise on how the lands could be used.
It did make provision for hunting and subsistence and fishing that would not be allowable in the lower 48.
The legislation turned more than 73,000 square miles into public land, virtually doubling the size of Park Service properties. It was the single largest stroke of conservation in world history. Mount McKinley National Park officially reverted back to its native Alaskan name, Denali, meaning the Great One, and the Park Service land around it tripled. But size doesn't matter as much for this national park. Location does.
When I say that I'm working in the national park, and they're like, "Where? Like, how do you get there?" I'm like, "I take the 2 train." I work in Brooklyn. There's a national park right here.
Gateway is a patchwork of green spaces and shorelines in greater New York City, a place not often associated with peace and quiet.
Gateway is a bit off the grid for most New Yorkers. We tend to live and walk on solid ground, on concrete, on sidewalks. We follow sort of grid-like patterns most days of our lives. And Gateway really has that kind of outback feel.
Everything is still. You just feel the breeze. You see the trees, you see like the butterflies and birds flying around, but there aren't like cars honking and the subway screeching. So for me, it's like a place where you can breathe.
Neil is one of the many young interns at Gateway.
We have people from like India and Russia, and myself from Guyana, Ecuador, all over the world.
The mission was really to bring the national park experience closer for people who couldn't necessarily travel. I think for some people, especially newcomers to this country, the idea of going and sleeping out under the trees is stretching the comfort zone a little bit.
The Park Service is trying to serve a broader cross-section of Americans than ever before.
Gateway is meant to be an introduction, an entree into the national park experience.
Small parks close to big cities may be a new